She won't confront you with chaos. Not yet. Her first move isn't anger. It's subtle defiance. A delay in reply. A smile that doesn't match your words. A small contradiction to your boundary. And you explain, adjust, apologize. That's the test. Not announced. Not loud, but precise. You think you're being kind. She sees calculation. You believe in grace. She measures how far you'll bend. She'll never say, "I'm testing you." She doesn't need to. Every pause, every silence, every miscommitment. She's watching. Will you correct? Will you confront? Or will you fold for comfort? And the moment you fold, she learns everything she needs. Not just who you are, but how to control you. The world taught you please. She's testing if you've unlearned it. This isn't love. This is evaluation. Fail here, and you'll never hear a no. Only feel her pull away, one soft boundary at a time. The moment you adjust your world to fit hers, you lose more than time. You lose your frame. Men don't fall when they get rejected. They fall when they compromise identity just to be accepted. You think you're proving love. She sees you shifting your standards. And no woman respects a man who moves his line every time she crosses it. The truth? She doesn't need control. She needs a man who cannot be controlled. Machiavelli warned, "He who becomes master of a free city and does not destroy, it will be destroyed by it." The same applies here. If you don't challenge her illusions, she'll rule you through them. If you don't test her loyalty, you'll mistake charm for truth. If you don't lead with strength, she'll lead with emotions and you'll follow. She won't beg for your leadership. She'll test if it's real. And if it breaks, she'll never tell you directly. She'll simply drift. Less warmth, fewer replies, less effort. Not because she changed, but because you did. You surrendered your frame. And now she sees no man to follow, only a shadow to walk past. Machiavelli didn't write for romantics. He wrote for rulers, men who understand that affection without structure leads collapse. He warned, a prince who is not himself shrewd cannot be well counseled. In modern terms, if you can't read her tests, you can't lead her heart. Most men try to win a woman without questioning her narrative. They assume loyalty without pressure. They expect respect without proof. And they lose, not by betrayal, but by their own blindness. Because what you don't inspect will infect. She doesn't lie through words. She lies through comfort. She keeps you busy proving you're good enough so you never stop to ask, does she even qualify? That's the trick. You chase her grace. She's measuring your silence. You're hoping for connection. She's watching your reactions. And when Machiavelli said appearances are the enemy of truth, he meant exactly this. She may smile. She may agree. But beneath that smile might be a strategy. One designed not to destroy you, but to see if you'll destroy yourself trying to please her. From the moment you speak, she isn't just listening. She's scanning. Not your words, but your why. How do you react when she's late? Do you flinch when she mentions an ex? Do you correct her when she dismisses your ideas? Or do you laugh it off to keep the peace? She studies these moments like a map. Not because she's cruel, because she's built to survive. A woman needs to know, is this man rooted or does he sway with emotion? Every time you let her contradiction slide, every time you forgive too fast, every time you accommodate instead of led, she learns. You call it compassion. She sees compromise. You think it's love. She sees leverage. Machiavelli didn't say kindness was weakness. He said untested virtue leads to ruin. She doesn't need a savior. She needs structure. And if you give her approval when she breaks the rhythm, she won't stop, not because she's bad, but because you've shown her there are no limits. Your silence is permission. Your softness is data. And she's always collecting, quietly, efficiently, until there's nothing left to respect. She may love you for your kindness, but she stays for your strength. Every woman has a threshold, the point where affection ends and evaluation begins. And that's where most men fail. Not because they weren't good enough, but because they were too willing to prove they were. You bring flowers. You show up on time. You listen, provide, care, accommodate. and still she grows distant. Why? Because love by itself is fragile. It's built on emotion, and emotion changes. But respect anchors loyalty. And it's not earned by effort. It's earned by resistance. When you say no and mean it, when you draw a line and hold it, when you remain calm while she storms. Machiavelli wrote, "It is much safer to be feared than loved when one of the two must be lacking." He wasn't promoting cruelty. He was pointing to stability. A man who's unmoved by pressure earns trust. Not because he dominates, but because he doesn't dissolve. You think pleasing her brings connection, but she doesn't want a partner who pleases. She wants one who cannot be moved, because only the immovable can be trusted to lead, and only the respected are followed when love fades. If you think this is about playing hard to get, you've already lost. This isn't a game of seduction. It's a test of sovereignty. She's not challenging your mood. She's challenging your center. The man who cannot test a woman is like a king who never inspects his borders. He may feel loved until he's invaded, because a woman who isn't tested doesn't need to betray you. She'll just gradually reshape you, softly, silently, until you're no longer the man she admired. Machiavelli warned, a ruler who trusts appearances over reality will be overthrown. She may seem happy, she may seem gentle, but if she's never met your edge, she doesn't know your core. And if you've never tested her balance, you don't know if she stands beside you or leans on you to stand. This isn't about manipulation, it's about clarity. And without clarity, you're not in a relationship, you're in a performance. You think her smile means safety. That silence means harmony. That affection means approval. It doesn't. It means she's watching. She laughs at your jokes, agrees with your ideas, leans in with softness. But behind the softness is calculation, not to harm you, but to understand you. She's not asking, can I control him? She's testing, how far will he go to keep me smiling? The moment you give too much, without question, without resistance, you've answered her, and that answer rewrites everything. You thought you were bonding. She realized she could bend you, and once that's revealed, respect dies quietly. Machiavelli warned, everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are. She may never speak the truth aloud. She doesn't have to. She already saw yours. And the moment she sees your spine isn't firm, she doesn't leave. She simply stops believing. That smile, it was never peace. It was the first probe, and you failed it with grace. You were told to be good, to be present, kind, supportive, to treat her well, and she'll treat you better. But Machiavelli would laugh, because in power dynamics, virtue untested is virtue wasted. You believe love is earned through service. So you show up, provide, please. You think that will win her heart. But what it wins is tolerance. Until it doesn't. She doesn't fall for men who hand over control. She falls for those who hold their ground. Machiavelli said, a man who acts entirely in virtue will be destroyed among so much that is evil. He didn't mean women are evil. He meant life is ruthless, and survival belongs to those who can resist the storm, not the ones who beg it to pass. Your softness may be real, but if it's your only move, you've already been outplayed. Because even the kindest woman doesn't love virtue blindly. She respects strength. She tests resolve. She follows men who don't fold, even when folding looks noble. Kindness without command is emptiness, and goodness without boundaries is a script she's seen 1,000 times before. She won't ask, will you stand your ground? She'll just shift the earth beneath your feet and watch what happens. Her tests aren't loud. They're invisible. She'll cancel plans last minute, make subtle digs at your confidence, contradict herself, then wait to see if you correct her or conform. These are not accidents. They are calculated data points. And you think you're being understanding. She sees you negotiating with your own standards. Every time you choose peace over truth, comfort over clarity, you reinforce the same message. I'm willing to shrink to keep you. And once she believes that, everything changes. Affection cools. Respect disappears. connection become compliance. You never hear no. You just feel her growing colder. Not because she lost interest, but because you failed a test you never knew you were taking. Machiavelli didn't say to dominate. He said to observe. Because what collapses under pressure was never solid. You want her loyalty? Start with your limits. Draw the line silently. Hold it calmly. Because in her world, your reaction to discomfort is your true identity. And if you break for her smile, you'll never see it again with the same eyes. She didn't yell. She didn't leave in anger. She just faded. Less warmth, less effort, less of everything that once felt real. And you're left asking, what happened? You think it's sudden. It's not. It's the result of tiny surrenders you made along the way. A skipped confrontation, an apology you didn't owe, a boundary you didn't enforce. Each time she watched, not to punish you, but to calculate. You gave up your edge to gain her attention. You thought softness would hold her, but she wasn't looking for comfort. She was looking for conviction. Machiavelli wrote, "It is well to appear merciful, but be ready to change the opposite if necessity commands it." You never changed. You stayed soft, predictable, movable, and she saw the truth. Your strength was just a performance. So she withdrew quietly, not out of hate, but because the man she once admired had already left. The moment he stopped leading, respect isn't taken. It's lost slowly, silently, by the man who thinks love alone is enough. She doesn't need fixing. She needs reflection. You think your role is to repair her moods, calm her storms, validate her fears. But every time you do, you become the emotional sponge she never respects. She doesn't admire the man who absorbs her chaos. She admires the one who remains unmoved by it. You were trained to heal, to love harder when she pulls away, to speak softer when she pushes your limits. But a Machiavellian man doesn't comfort dysfunction. He mirrors it without emotion, without apology. He lets her face herself, not by yelling, but by standing still when she expects reaction. You think this makes you cold. It makes you clear. Because a woman doesn't trust a man who bends at every emotional shift. She trusts the one who can sit in silence and still remain firm. That's the mirror. No fixing. No pleading. Just presence. And when she sees herself in that mirror, only then can she decide, will she rise to meet you or retreat into what no longer works on you? The moment you set a boundary, you don't just change the rules. You declare war on the version of her that was winning. Don't expect applause. Expect resistance. She may become sweeter, more agreeable, even affectionate. But behind the softness is calculation. Is this real strength or just a phase? Because if your boundary wavers, she'll know it was never principle, only performance. Most men fold at the first sign of emotional backlash. They confuse discomfort with danger. But Machiavelli warned, injuries must be inflicted all at once so that their savor may be less. If you're going to lead, do it fully, immediately, without hesitation. Test once, hold forever. Because consistency, not cruelty, is what defines leadership. And if she escalates with drama, silence, guilt, or distance, hold. Her reaction isn't the problem. Her reaction is the mirror. It tells you everything about her character and everything about yours. Most men don't fail because they're weak. They fail because they abandon their strength when it's most needed. They test once, set a boundary, say no, hold firm, and when she pushes back with silence, emotion, or withdrawal, they panic, they retreat, they apologize. They undo everything they just stood for just to feel peace again. But that peace is temporary, and the cost is permanent. She was never testing your rule. She was testing your resolve. Machiavelli wrote, injuries must be done all at once. Benefits should be given little by little. In other words, when you draw the line, draw it with finality. Don't wobble. Don't explain. Don't rehearse. Men who lead inconsistently create chaos. And chaos is her natural advantage. Because where you're unsure, she becomes the authority. You think you compromise to keep her, But you only confirmed what you feared, that your strength was temporary. She'll never say it, but she felt it. And once she does, she can't unfeel it. And that's how most men lose everything. Not by being tested, but by folding right after they finally stood up. Any man can say no once. Very few can say it 3 times without raising his voice or losing his center. Because real power isn't in the first test. It's in what you do after the pushback. She may stay composed for a day or 2, but when the third no arrives, when you ignore the emotional theatrics, when you refuse to shift your frame, that's when her true nature appears. Will she adjust or escalate? Will she soften or start drama? Will she respect your standard or try to shame you for holding it? Machiavelli taught that appearance fools the crowd, but pressure reveals the truth. A woman who respects your boundary once might just be patient, but a woman who respects it consistently is rare. And consistency is where most men fail. They test 1 week, collapse the next. They mistake her temporary calm for victory, not knowing it was just her recalibration. If you want to lead, your firmness must become a pattern. Something she cannot manipulate, predict, or wear down. Because only then does she stop pushing. Not because she gave up, but because she finally sees. You won't. You thought she changed. You thought she pulled away. But maybe she didn't. Maybe you did. You started strong, clear, firm, focused. But somewhere in the softness, you traded truth for harmony, boundary for attention, and your crown for her comfort. Machiavelli once wrote, "It is not titles that honor men, but men that honor titles." And you forgot what it meant to honor your own. She didn't destroy your frame. You handed it over, piece by piece, with every unspoken truth, every swallowed instinct, every time you feared losing her more than losing yourself. But listen carefully. She never wanted the version of you who bends. She admired the one who didn't flinch. So stop performing, stop pleasing, and start leading. Withdraw, observe, speak only when it matters. Let your silence be felt more than your words ever were. Because the woman who's meant to walk with you won't flinch at your standards. She'll rise to meet them. And the rest? Let them fall away. If this hit you somewhere deep, then you're exactly the man this channel is built for. Subscribe now, not for me, but for the version of you that refuses to be ruled. Drop a comment below. What boundary did you break? That broke you? Let's bring truth to the surface, together. And if you're still watching, then like this video. Because if it spoke to your soul, you owe it to someone else's to spread it. We're not building views. We're rebuilding men.